Good evening. Can everybody hear me? Hi, Miss Tucker. How's Vera enjoying school? She adjusting? Good. Okay, we'll get started. Let's give it one more minute. There's more people. Ashley, do you still have people in the waiting room?
Nope, I've let everybody in that's in so far.
Okay. Miss Edwards, you want to go ahead and get started? You want me to kick it off?
Yes, ma'am. Let's go.
So I want to welcome everyone here tonight. This is some, goodness, throwing stuff all over my office at home. So this is something that, I'm Nicole Newman, I'm the superintendent, if you didn't know that already, but we're here tonight to talk about scheduling, and I'll give a brief facility update at the end of this presentation for anyone who wants to know about the ongoing facility decisions that we've been making in the district. So about, I don't know, Ms. Edwards, about a year and a half ago, we started down this path of looking at alternate schedules for lots of different reasons, which Ms. Edwards is going to share with you tonight. And it's kind of landed where we've spoken to the board about some of the differences between the two schedules that we've narrowed it down to. And Ms. Edwards can talk about the process they went through as well to get to debating or, contemplating staying with our current schedule or going to a block schedule. So we've been working on this with teachers for about a year and a half now. And I'm going to let Ms. Edwards just kind of give an overview. Ms. Edwards, can you share your screen? Because then we had a little agenda.
You mean the PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Yeah, just a second.
I haven't used Zoom in a while. I feel kind of, I guess that's a good thing, right? I haven't used Zoom. It could be worse.
Oh. Hold on, my office, of course, won't open. Just a second.
I can share mine if you want me
Okay,
to.
can you share yours? Because, oh, wait, maybe mine just opened. It's real delayed.
Okay, so tonight, like I was saying, we want to talk about the reasons that we've been evaluating a new student schedule. She's going to share with you the research that we've been doing on both of the schedules that we've narrowed it down to. We'll have an opportunity to field some questions depending on how big the room is. We may or may not be able to do them openly, but put them in the chat as you go. And at the end, I want some feedback about your thoughts as parents or students. And we've also got a little survey or a Google form that we would like for you to fill out as well when we finish this meeting. So take it away, Ms. Edwards. I'll go on to the next slide.
So, over the last year or so, after we moved to a 7-period day, some of the kids started to come to me and they're like, it feels like a lot, Ms. Edwards, feels like a lot of classes. And some of our kids were like, it's great. And so we were getting lots of feedback from kids both ways. Our staff was also giving us the same conversation, like, it's great, I love it. And then some of them were like, my periods are just a little too short, science especially, to get through a lab. So some things that have come up with staff and students over the last year and a half or so are, they wanted to talk about intervention and options and what that would look like if we moved to a different schedule. They wanted to talk about exploration of their interests, like how do I take another class? How do I take more career technical education? How can I take another college class? Credit recovery. Our current day doesn't have a lot of credit recovery options for kids. College opportunities. Workload. The workload again came back to kids are like, I have 7 classes to do homework for. So our college bound kids are like, it's a lot of classes to do for. And our other kids or kids who maybe have a more diversified schedule maybe don't feel that way, but that definitely came back. And then the relationships that they build with their teachers all year, those are important to the staff and the students both. So our current schedule is on the left. This is what it looks like. I opened the option earlier this fall to speak to my staff about all the teachers about what schedules would you like to talk about moving forward. We've talked about a lot of different schedules moving forward. But one of the things we talked about that was not an option is we just recently moved to 2 lunches. And we moved to 2 lunches just because our facilities to get kids through the lunch line do not have enough space to get 1,000 kids through the lunch line. And so those 2 lunches were not discussed. So moving forward, the only parameter was the schedule can look like whatever you want it to, but we need to keep 2 lunches. So right now the schedule on the left is what we currently have. Your kids take 7 classes a day. They choose those 7 classes, and then their periods are about 47 minutes with a 35-minute lunch. There are 2 lunches built in there, so half the population of kids go to lunch first, and the other half are in class, and then they flip-flop. The other kids go to 5th period, and the other kids have lunch. The other option that the staff, when they voted, they really wanted to consider was a 4x4. Which a lot of high schools in our area have. So the 4x4 works like this. Kids start classes in August. They take 4 out of their 8 selected classes from August to December. When the semester is done, August to December, they've completed those 4 classes. Then starting in January, they take 4 new classes, classes 5 through 8. And so they take 5, 6, 7, 8. The periods, we haven't really talked about what that schedule would look like, but approximately 90-minute periods of what we'd be looking at. Kids would be in a class for about an hour and a half, giving them twice as much time in a class every day. So we give them extended opportunities to work in the wellbeing shop and work on a project, extended opportunities to work in a science lab and get labs done. So while we were talking about schedules, we also talked about what the benefits were and what the challenges were. So the challenges in our 7-period day are a lot of our kids are finding 7 classes a lot to juggle. A lot of our staff are saying it's really hard to get through a full lesson in 47 minutes. By the time the bell rings, they get kids settled, they start instructing, the bell is ringing on the other side, and they feel like they can't get through their content. They don't have enough time. Also, too many passing periods. In a 7-period day, the kids move through their schedule, and there's a lot of minutes lost in teaching in those passing periods. Every time they move classes, I lose 5 minutes of part of that instructional day. And honestly, the downtime of when kids are in passing periods, sometimes kids don't make greatest choices. So the more passing periods we have, sometimes we have kids who make choices that are not good during those passing periods. And so a lot of passing periods is kind of a problem. The benefits of those are relationship building with students. Our staff feels like seeing your kids all year, same amount of kids, all year gives them a lot of time to build deep relationships with their kids. If your kids are in baseball and they talk to them about that and they learn about that, and then they get to go watch their baseball games, and they have those kids all year. A smaller amount of material to absorb. So teachers teach a lesson in a day, kids go home and have practice time in a day. And so if it's 47 minutes, they're probably moving a lesson a day, and then kids go home and practice. So they feel like it's a smaller amount of material for kids to try to learn in a day. Stability. Some teachers and some kids reported back that school is the best part of their day. And so they're really happy to be here, excited to be here. And they feel like that adult, seeing those same adults over a period of time makes them feel like they're real stable here at school, and gives them the option to go talk to staff when they're, oh wait, go back.
Sorry. There we go.
And then classes all year are good for growth in kids who maybe need a longer time processing. Some of our teachers allow kids to make up stuff from test to test. And so that gives them more time to learn content. If I'm with the same teacher all year and they give me some extended learning time, then I can process things in my own time. We know that kids don't all grow at the same rate. Some kids catch on real quick and some kids need a little more time. So those were some of the benefits and downfalls of the 7-period day that the staff discussed. So the 4x4 challenges, it's a little harder for transfer students. If you come into school and you're in the middle of a semester, then you're halfway through a class. So some schools are on a 4x4 and some aren't. So it just makes it a little more trouble on transferring in and out, which we hope no one's doing. We want you all to stay with Wheatland High. Timing of AP classes, we can't make all those AP classes happen all in the spring right prior to the test and state testing. So it could be that kids had math in the fall and state testing in the spring. Could also be that kids had AP language in the fall and they're taking that AP language test in the spring. So those are things that we could work through, like some Saturday sessions or a rollback and do some intervention for kids needing some. Retention gaps. It doesn't give us a lot of time to retain in a 4x4 because curriculum is moving at a quicker pace. Some kids have trouble retaining all that curriculum in that small amount of time. They just process slower. Year-long electives. FFA is reported in order to be in FFA, they really want kids in a year-long pathway to stay with them. And so that's one that they're concerned about. Also, PE is talked about kids who only have PE in the fall and like doing archery in the fall as opposed to the spring. It's hard to do it in the rain. So kids might not get the same variety of year-long courses. Coursework missed. One of the things is when you're in a 90-minute period, obviously more can be covered. But if a student is absent or out ill, then they will have missed as much more material in that 90 minutes than they did in the 47 minutes. And so reported that that could be a challenge. Now on the opposite, there are definitely some benefits, right? Increase effective offerings and credit opportunities. In the 4x4, instead of 7 classes, kids get 8 classes, 4 in the fall, 4 in the spring, which allows them to pick an extra elective, to maybe explore some things in their day that they wouldn't have had the opportunity to explore, meaning they could pick up a business class, a CTE class, they could pick up a welding class, they could take an extra year of PE if they wanted to, or physical fitness. Also, reduce focus to 4 classes of homework. Instead of doing 7 classes of homework a night, I'd only have to concentrate on 4 classes, which means I might be able to dig a little bit deeper and get a little bit more out of that class at that time. I don't have to like worry about all those classes. I'm just going to concentrate on 4. Fewer transitions in their day. We know that fewer transitions is better for kids, right? Kids like stability. And so by having 4 classes, they just see 4 teachers every day. And then they'll see 4 new teachers in the spring every day, but there are less transitions and strengthen relationships. Teachers said just the same thing. They could get to know your kids in 90 minutes a lot better if they spent twice as much time with them as they could in those 7-period days. So it gives them an opportunity to get to know kids on a different level.
So I think now that you've kind of heard how we bounced back and forth between the two and some of the analyzing that we've done, I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I can't see if there's any, I can't see in the chat.
I see the chat. So one question is, where's the time for the schedule on the right? We have not made a time for a schedule on the right. When we talk to the staff, after doing a few surveys with our staff, our staff was kind of split on 7-period versus a 4x4. that schedule would still need to be come up with. We haven't come up with a schedule for that. What we wanted to do was come ask the stakeholders, you and your students, how you felt about the two schedules and give you an option to have some input on what that might look like moving forward. And then we could talk about what that schedule would look like. Where is that where credit recovery? Yeah, credit recovery comes in that instead of 7 classes, kids would now have the option to take 8 in a year, which means they get an additional class every year for 4 years. And so that gives them quite a bit of time to either make up credits or explore credits that new credits that they might want to take for classes they couldn't have gotten before. No, we're not changing the entire way the school works for credit recovery. We are looking at 2 schedules. Both schedules were presented by the staff as options. Again, it was driven out of kids just saying it was a lot of homework to carry in those 7 classes. And also teachers reporting that they just felt like the periods had gotten real short and they were concerned about 47-minute periods. To do a science lab in 47-minute periods, we heard from our science teachers, was a lot. And a lot for kids to do a science lab in 47-minute periods. Also, PE reported by the time kids dress out, go to PE, come back, dress again, they don't have a lot of time to do PE. So it wasn't just strictly about credit recovery. Miss Richardson, you said you had 2 questions, but they're not in my chat.
No, I didn't type them out, Shandy. It was easier for me to talk to you. The first one was, will this affect class size at all? Or are you going to I'm looking at something like English, that's a required class every year. Are you going to divide them?
No, it doesn't affect class size at all. We're not changing the class sizes. They would just either have English in the fall or the spring.
Gotcha. And then the last question is, because I'm going to have a senior, believe it or not, that's hard to believe. How's that going to work with seniors if you go to this schedule with a reduced day? Will they still be able to have the partial day?
They could have 3 classes instead of 4 and get out early too. That's been a discussion we already had. So they could just do 3 instead of 4 right now. Kids have to carry like 5 or 6 in our day. And so it would be the same thing. They would carry 3 in the fall, 3 in the spring, and they still would have the option. Miss Newman and I spoke about maybe taking a college class and counting that as one of their periods.
Yes, that was my question. All right. Thanks, Shandia.
You're welcome. So how many students are behind at school? I don't think this was so much about kids being behind as kids feeling like the 7 classes of homework is a lot for some of them. It's not really about behind in school, just like they feel like 7 periods of homework can be a lot at times, depending upon what load of classes they have. Rather than taking an extra elective, they can, rather than taking an extra elective, they could pick up a class for credit recovery. That was a question. So like if a kid had failed integrated 1 in the fall, rather than take a different class, they could repeat it in the spring immediately. And that way there was no learning loss, right? We're not trying to do something else. We could go back, take math again, and then we don't need to take another class. But for kids who are not failing classes, it gives them the opportunity to do an extension, right? It gives them an opportunity to take a welding class or an art class that maybe they hadn't taken before.
So Mr. Evans, he's asking about culinary. So it's kind of, kids could take culinary all year long. They could take culinary 1 in the fall and culinary 2 in the spring. So, and that's part of the piece of this with career technical education and students completing pathways. It gives them 1 more class. It's 40 extra possible units over the course of, their 4 years that they're able to get, whether it be in remediation, some type of enrichment. Ms. Edwards' favorite word in mine is whatever's an extension of the curriculum we offer at the high school. they can go to Yuba College and do those things. Ms. Keiser's been working really hard with Yuba College. We anticipate that we're going to be able to bring a law enforcement course this coming year. We're starting patient care. We're fine tuning our education pathway that we started this year. So there's a lot of opportunities. I also want to reiterate though, that a decision hasn't been made. We just want, we're sitting here listening. We want to listen to the feedback from parents and from students, because that will help us in our presentation that we'll do for the board next week. But Tom, you're asking about government and econ. They would have them both in one semester. Right? Have to do the math.
No,
Yes.
yes, they would. Yes. Yeah. I had
They'd
to
have it in one
too.
semester.
Yes, yes, I had to do the math too.
1 quarter each.
One
Yep.
quarter each.
One
There we
quarter
go.
each, yes, I had to think about that.
I need to go back to math class.
Me
apparently.
too. Ms. Tucker asked what the school day would look like. Again, no decision's been made. I think the school day is going to look very similar to what it looks like now. Just a matter of what does it look like inside our school day.
Some of the models, I mean, there's all types of bell schedules that we could play with if that were the direction we were going, that we were going to go. But I've seen first, second, and third period, and then lunch, and then fourth period in the afternoon, which is nice because then those kids can either eat lunch at school, the ones that aren't going, might go to the college or go to work. They're able to leave after third period, so they get their 3 classes, get lunch if they want, and then go on to their job or to college or home and do homework.
Another question is, how will it affect senior credits? There'll be no change to senior credits or current credits here for kids at the high school. It will be a roll-up change in credits. Currently, the freshman class this year needs 260 credits to graduate, but everybody else is 240. So if we went to an 8-period 4x4, then there would be some roll up and change in credits, but nothing to the change of senior credits. Another question is, would there be a break? Yes, there'll be lunch in that day at some point.
And a break,
And a
nutrition break.
nutrition break. We just don't know what that schedule would look like.
And passing periods would be the same as they are now. Lorraine, I agree with you. She says this type of scheduling is not very forgiving to absences. That's probably the biggest concern that we have as administrators, especially with sports. And if a kid is missing, I was talking to my husband earlier tonight, and softball and baseball are the worst, right? They leave really, really early. However, we are changing leagues, so we'll be a whole lot closer. But yes, that is a very real concern. And then you're right, if they miss one day, they've missed 2. So making up that work makes it harder. But the flip side of that is they're only making up work for 4 classes versus 7. Amanda, you've had your hand up for a while. I'm gonna let you ask a question if you have one.
Question, more like a comment. You asked for feedback. I'm a mother of a freshman, and they just went through block schedule for their entire 8th grade year at Riverside. And I would say it was not a positive experience for my son. Now, granted, it was an extreme block because they were with the same kids for the entire day, right? The whole cohort. They were the same kids. But they felt it was a very long time to be in those classes. So I know my son is not here because he is wrestling right now. But he would vote no. So I wanted to make sure I passed that along. I am concerned about the amount of time, the absences. I went 6 periods a day plus a 0 period in high school. That was sort of what I was familiar with. My sister teaches middle school and is also not a big fan of some of these block schedules for the chunks of time periods. A lot of the things that you have addressed, concerns here. And I think the last comment, I had one more comment to make and now I forgot it, but I appreciate the thought that has gone into this. I do, I see some benefit in terms of, hey, you can take 8 classes. Oh, I remember what it was. You're concerned about too much homework. I would be on the flip side. My son only tends to have homework from one, maybe two classes a night, because he gets his work done during school. So I that may be true for some kids. It's just not been my experience. And so I don't find that argument persuasive. Thank you.
Are you, Amanda, I'm gonna ask a question. Is he doing his schoolwork like at lunch, or are you finding that he's sometimes doing his homework in class?
He's getting it done in class.
Yeah, I have a ninth grader also, and he doesn't come home with much homework either. So I probably shouldn't complain, but sometimes you want them to have a little bit of something to do when they get home, other than want to be on their phone and play Xbox, right, Blythe? Blythe asked the question, and Shundi, I'm gonna let you answer this because this is her wheelhouse, but about the gaps between math.
So, I think, well, her was long periods, right? So I think there's some benefits to long periods, right? So we teach kids, we have more opportunity to do some in-classroom practice that we currently don't have in those 47-minute periods, right? We send them home to do independent practice when sometimes they're probably not ready for independent practice yet. So on the flip side, the longer period might be better for some kids. I get the other kids who are like, being in math for 47 minutes feels like torture, right? So being in math for 90 minutes. So I think it really depends on the individual kid. I'm not concerned about the gaps. It could be a long time, but they could take it just back to back, right? They could go integrated 1, take integrated 2, and then be integrated 3 and be done with math ahead of schedule. I think it really depends on the kid.
So if I can just kind of talk that out with you. I think the 90-minute classes are a great idea, and I think it's actually better for retention. Having struggled a little bit in high school myself, some of those classes that lasted all year, I really struggled with. And then I would take them in summer school, and it was condensed, and you learned it, you practiced it, you tested on it, and it was done with. So that part I think is a good idea. My concern is more because I guarantee you my child is not going to be the one that's like, give me all the math, for the next 3 years so we can get it over with. So I do have a concern about the time gap between, because we have that at summertime, right? We know there's some learning loss when they've been gone from school for a while. So I do have that as a bit of a concern. That's just kind of one of the things that I see as a possible issue.
Yeah, but kids have learning loss even when we leave for winter break. So I think that's something as teachers we just work through, right? We do some, when kids start integrated 2, we always have like a, hello, this is what we taught you in integrated 1, and this is what we need you to refresh those memories, right? And kids retain a lot more than we give them credit for in a lot of aspects. So I think it'd just be something we'd have to work through. Okay. I think the other, Miss Braxton, I think your question was about government and
physics, and then we did the math and divided it by 4, and it ended up being a half.
Okay, so next, AP and state testing is always administered in the spring, but there's a lot of easy ways to work around that. Sometimes it's like an AP review session prior to the test. There's plenty of schools that do a 4x4 and do an AP review session. So I think we would just work around what does that look like. Also be a rollback, like we could do a refresher for kids who were taking the math state test. Same thing, we could roll back and see their teachers. They do it at other schools. They do like a in-day rollback. They go see their fall teachers for a couple of days right prior to state testing. So lots of big schools do it.
Amanda, you asked your question. Nicole, do you want to ask your question? You said too much to type.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. I have I have sort of a feedback and a question. From a teacher standpoint, I can say every single day, and at my school, we have 8 periods in one day. So every day when the bell rings, I wish every day I had another 20 minutes to class. And so I can see from a teacher educator standpoint, how beneficial this type of a schedule to have the longer period of time, you know, with the understanding or the hope that the kids have the stamina for it. But you know, I do know, you know, from a research also standpoint, that the retention of material comes from a teacher's ability to have a start and a finish versus having to cut something off in the middle. So to be able to have that independent work time inside the classroom with the teacher there is really, truly, you know, whether the class is only a semester long or an entire year long, that long-term retention is going to happen when the time is allowed for these kids to be able to have the in-class experience with that material. So that's just my feedback portion. But my question is, I also have a job where my students are required to take my class or have this particular, whether it be special ed or in my case, language development. It's something that they're required to have all year long. It's a you know, we are required by law to provide, whether it be IEP services, special ed services, or in my particular case, second language, the 30 minutes of uninterrupted time every single day. So I'm just curious, how does all of that kind of stuff fit into this type of a schedule for the students where it really isn't conducive for them? So that's my question.
Newman, are you? Okay, so I think they could still get those services. It may mean like a 0 period, right? If we need to push in the morning, they could get those services, or it may mean that those kids would not get an extra elective out of it, right? They would get those services embedded in one of their periods in their day. So it would just depend on what those services look like for those individual kids. So if it was ESL English, then they would get it. They would get it with a bilingual teacher. And so it would be in their day. So I think it depends on the individual kid. We just have to look at what the requirements are of their IEP or what we're trying to fill in.
I think what she's asking though is if they're in English one semester, then they still need ELD services the next semester. So what would that look like? Would they go into, so that's something we definitely would need.
Semester with a bilingual teacher, and the next semester it would probably be an ELD placement with that teacher for extra services.
Yeah, it would just depend on what their needs are.
Right.
Kelsey, do you want to, I think it says Kelsey, do you want to elaborate on your question? You want to add anything else? Again, we share the same, you know, the same concerns about block schedule, but we have, you know, concerns about our current schedule too. So I appreciate that comment. You want to, there you are.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, my oldest son goes to a different high school. We just moved, so he's finishing up. So this year they instituted the 4x4, and it hasn't gone well at all. He doesn't feel like he has been challenged. He doesn't feel like the teachers always use that whole period of time because they're not used to teaching that long. He has the stamina now for the class, but it took a while to get there. He took AP English language and has opted not to do the AP test in the spring because he doesn't feel like he's going to be prepared for that. Next semester, he's taking BC calculus, and he doesn't think he's going to take that test because with their placement being usually in early May, you're going to not get that last month of time to really prepare for that test. And to take those tests, those are intense. And so he doesn't feel like he's going to be able to. So he's taking multiple AP classes without the benefit of taking of AP tests. And of course, there's ways to work around that, but it doesn't, I don't know that when you're looking at these students that have these difficult schedules that are probably involved in other things, to say, well, let's have a Saturday session. I don't know that they're going to have that available in their schedule. I'm super concerned about if you could literally go a whole year before you take another Spanish class. Like, that's not just a small retention gap, that's huge. And so I know you've been working on this a long time, and it feels like it feels a little like the decision's been made, and I'm kind of bummed out about it because
It hasn't. It hasn't. Oh, no, our staff is pretty divided. Actually, it's like 50-50 divided. We thought it was going to be a lot closer than it was. So we're not at a point of making a decision yet at all.
And I was so grateful when we moved here and there were 7 classes, because my other son's school before that had 6, and it was hard to fit all of those classes in
Electives
and
things.
have an elective. And so I was so happy. I was like, what, 7 classes? This is great. He can have an elective. He can have all of his classes. We're super happy with that schedule. I have 3 more kids to come through the school, so I'm going to be around for a long time. And so, but I am so grateful. I'm loving Wheatland High School, and I'm grateful for all the work you guys are doing for us. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Let's see. Shundia, have you considered, Mr. Evans, have you considered the reduced attention span with a 90-minute class?
I think that's one of the things that we've talked about with our staff, which is why we're trying to have this conversation early with you and the staff, is those lessons have to look different in a 90-minute period. You have to change things, you know, in 15-minute, 20-minute chunks so that kids are doing something different. And part of the reason we wanted to have this conversation early and bring it to the staff and bring it to our stakeholders is that would take some training for our teachers to know what that good teaching looks like in a different day. We don't want the issues that another parent brought up to happen. And so we need to get our staff the training if that's the decision we make. So I think we just wanted to have this conversation early so we could do what's best for kids and stakeholders and the teachers, and then get them whatever they need to do to be supportive of that.
Okay, Miss Leonard, it's your turn. You've been waiting patiently.
Oh, you know I have. You know I'm a talker. I can't help it. But I feel really passionate. I feel really passionate about this subject because I'm in the con. It scares me. It scares me for several reasons. And I know some people already brought it up, but I'm still going to say it because I have my list here and I don't want to forget anything. But just making such a big change right now, after we've been through 2 years of craziness, making another change on the kids is a worry for me. The absences is a worry, and not just student absences, but teacher absences as well. 90 minutes with a substitute that doesn't really know where they are in the course of the subject or the children is a long time. And if we're doing COVID protocols, you know, if a kid has to quarantine for 5 days or 10 days, that is a lot missed, I'm concerned about the breaks. I mean, I don't know about everybody else, but my whole life, since I was in junior high, they talked about doing year-round schooling because the 3 months was too much of a miss. So if someone takes a math class of algebra 1 or 2 in the fall, and then they don't get algebra, they take algebra 1 in the fall, but they don't get algebra 2 until the spring of the following year, you're talking about over a year of zero math, and they're supposed to jump into it. And again, like the AP courses, of taking the AP courses and test, I get that we can have the kids come in, they can take a refresher, they can come in, they can do an extra 0 period. But that's kind of concerning because you guys are saying that they can't handle the 7 periods already. So I don't know if the kids can't handle the 7 periods or they're just getting lazier by the generation. I'm going to go with the latter. And my kids know how I feel about it. So I just think they're getting lazy and they need to be made to do their work. I also am am very concerned because I have a son coming in freshman year next year and he has an IEP. And I don't really know how this is going to work with your kids that have, learning disabilities. And it scares me. I'm going to be honest. It completely scares me. And maybe it scares me more because we've just been already emotional over the last 2 years of what is going on. Is our kids in school? Are they out of school? Are they quarantined? Are they not quarantined? Are they on the computer? Are they going in class? I just think it's really poor timing to do any of this. And that's just my thought process. Lightening a load for a kid, to change an entire schedule to lighten a load for a kid. We've been doing this kind of 7-day classes for I don't know how many decades. They just need to maybe try a little harder. That's my thoughts.
Will you do me? I know you know how to get a hold of me. Will you shoot me your list? Even if you just take a picture of it, just so I've got your
Yeah,
thoughts written down.
Yeah, I have it written down, so I'll send it over to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Dwayne says, how does athletic eligibility work? It'll work the exact same way it does now. When we look at grades at quarter. And Janine says, what about math? If a student takes math in the fall, do they move on to the next level in the spring? Or would they take it again either the next fall, the following spring? Math education studies show that students miss a year of math actually lose 2 years. Again, that's another drawback, right? That's another thing when looking at the looking at a 4x4, what that would do to math, because what Lorraine just said, they could end up taking one in the fall and then not have math again until spring of the following year. So that's a concern. I don't know if that answers your question, but they would not necessarily have integrated 1 first semester, integrated 2 second semester, integrated 3 the beginning of their sophomore year. It wouldn't necessarily work like that. It could. I mean, kids can want that. I mean, if you want to accelerate through it, that's absolutely, that's part of the beauty of a block schedule, is you can, but it's at the top end and the bottom end, right? There's a lot of challenges that need to be overcome. Blythe says, is that an issue for special ed services minutes? If we change the schedule, we would have, Ashley, correct me if I'm wrong, but if we change the schedule, we would change the IEP to meet the minutes per semester, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Oh, and then I said, please fill out the survey when the meeting is over. I'll post that again. Kai, I spoke with my son and he prefers the 7-day. When I was a student in high school, I moved from the 7-day period to a 4x4. My math grade was the highest ever with a 4x4. So that's your advocate. Your son is saying that he wants to stay at the 7 and you want to go to the 4. Is that what you're saying, Kai? Because you were successful there. Kylia, is that it?
Yes. She replied in the chat.
Got it.
Someone said, Miss Newman, your link is.
Yeah, let me fix that right now. Thank you. I always forget to change it if you don't have a Wheatland email. Any other questions? Shandia, you want to take the next one from Mr. Edwards?
People are worried about students' attendance hands with a 90-minute class. What about 2 to 4 hours? Yeah, I think, in going to a 4x4, you're showing your kids more like what it will look like in college. And so it is more of what it looks like for our college age kids. They tend to have that just semester classes in college and longer periods. So there are definitely benefits and maybe some downfalls. And that's all the questions, except for what looks like we have a couple hands. So is it Mariah, you have a question?
Yes. Hi. Good evening. Just kind of a comment. As I'm listening to other parents comments and concerns, as well as the pros and cons of each of the schedules. Coming from a school that has done a 4x4, but during the semester, so one day they had 4 classes and then the next day they had 4 classes. A little concerned that the current 7 periods a day is a little bit of a short instruction time, and able to get everybody in, settle down, instruction, and then have homework and then go home. There's kind of a lot to cover. So I don't necessarily know that they're getting the amount of instruction that would go with following a block schedule where they're getting that 90 minutes. A concern of having that 90 minutes, and I think another parent had stated, was having the teachers being able to instruct for that whole 90 minutes. The school that we transferred in from had the 90-minute schedules, and there was a lot of downtime. And so my child kind of was essentially bored sitting in class because of that extended period of time. But listening to other comments and questions about math retention or Spanish, the opportunity for my child to essentially take 6 years of any one course in a 3-year period is substantial. I mean, that would be astounding, especially if they were headed to college. And doing the 4x4 is setting them up to be successful in college with time management, paying attention in class, staying focused on homework. So I'm on the fence on both, but I do see a lot of the benefits that would come with the 4x4 schedule rather than the 7-period schedule. Just would want to hear kind of a little bit more about it. That's all. Thank you.
I don't think there are any more questions in the chat, Miss. Let's see. I'm trying to see. There's other hands. Katrina, you have a question?
Yeah, it's not really I missed the first part of the meeting, so I didn't get how the block schedule would work. So I'm hoping you're going to post the link, but I'm kind of echoing the concerns, especially with what my family has gone through recently with the COVID and the closures and school and stuff, that I'm not quite sure if this is the right time to make the change, right? And it might be that we're never really going to have a right time, but I think I just think that right now it would be so much on the kids, especially those that have gone through a lot of trauma and a lot of loss, to all of a sudden say, oh, by the way, you're doing this new schedule, and you have essentially a semester to do a year's worth of work. So if you are struggling or missing school or going through things that are affecting that, you're going to lose a whole year where you have to make that class up, right? I mean, I don't know how to articulate it better than that, but that's kind of where my concern is. How is that the kids that are really struggling right now emotionally and mentally? I don't feel this would be beneficial for them. And I know you can't do the whole school based on a small population group, but I think it's probably a little bit more. I think there's more kids affected, and it just wouldn't be a good thing. I know I have a hard time speaking in public, so I'm sorry, but do you kind of get in?
I hear what we understand what you're saying, and yes, I think honestly, when the staff talked about it, they were actually coming from the other way. Just they feel like kids in the 7-period day, they had some concerns that felt like a lot of pressure to kids. So when our staff is talking about a 4x4, they're trying to lighten that load a little bit, to be honest. That's where it's coming from.
But then my question comes from that standpoint is, yes, they would have less to focus on, right? Because they're only doing those 4 periods. But then if you mess up, you don't have as much time to bring that grade back up, right? So you potentially lose a whole year of credit that you're going to have to make up. And granted, it'll be easier than a semester, but that's kind of where, I guess that's kind of what my concern is. So, and that, I mean, that's pretty much it. So.
Thank you. Ms. Newman, you're muted.
Sorry. So our next step is to we'll compile all this. I need your survey information, and we will take information to the board, not for a decision in January, but to give just an overview of, where all the stakeholder groups are in this. And also a presentation to them, making sure they understand the pros and cons. And then I've heard some cons today that I hadn't thought of before. So we will put, we'll put those out, and then it'll be discussed at the board meeting. So any other?
Nicole, I
Yeah.
have one quick question. When the staff's saying that they're concerned that the kids can't handle this 7-period schedule that's been out for over God knows how many years, right? Did they say why they feel that change has come, or like if there's a cause to why they think that our kids can't handle a regular high school schedule? Because that's concerning. I don't know if any other parents are concerned, but I was concerned with that.
The issue is most of our junior highs do not have a 7-period day. So when kids come in as a freshman, that is a big swap for them. They don't carry 7 classes at the junior high, at either junior
No,
high.
but they have 7 classes have been going on in high schools for like,
Yeah.
for like ever, right? So I'm just wondering, did they say why this all of a sudden they felt that?
I don't think it's all of a sudden. I think for them, it's been a change over time. In the last few years, we just see that kids struggle more with 7 classes than they used
I was
to.
just trying to figure out if it was because of the whole COVID thing the last 2 years, or if it's something else. They didn't say why. Okay.
I think it goes back to the pros and cons, right? I mean, I think there's reasons why. I mean, I can give you reasons why I think block's a good idea, but I can give you reasons why it's not. I mean, I think about, a block schedule gives a 4-year college student, potential college student, or, even a student that's going to go to the junior college, the opportunity to complete early high school college before they graduate high school, so they can have their AA before they're done. We kind of have a baby version of that right now. We're, it's growing as we're growing and rolling it out. We rolled it out with our freshmen this year, but there's.
How do they do that? Maybe we should know that. How would they get college credit in high school?
Oh, we've had that since I've been here, since after my first year, they've been able to get college credit. We have a whole Pirates at Sea, and you'll hear about this at 9th grade when we do 8th grade meetings. So they can do college and early college and be able to be done.
Yeah, they're literally enrolled in a college course in high school.
Right.
As a freshman parent, that was explained to me pretty clearly. So thank you.
Yeah. So it's a really cool opportunity. They're getting college credit as freshmen, and Ms. Keyser's online too, and she's done a lot of work with that. It's awesome. They can do, if it's not necessarily a kid that's going to go to a 4-year school, we also have more pathways that they can complete, right? So if they want to get criminal justice, they can start doing those classes. I mean, English is something that's required for that. They can take those classes at the high school and still get college credit while they're going towards getting their law enforcement degree. So we've worked really well with Yuba College and have a really good relationship for these kids that we're still going to offer AP for a little while longer. And the kids are always have the opportunity to take the test regardless. But, dual enrollment is pretty cool. And like I said, if you want to know more about it, I want you to call Ms. Keyser, because that's not the purpose of the meeting tonight. And I don't want to keep everybody here for that, but Carol, can you put your email in the chat? But let's see. So they take action. There we go. There's Carol's email. Can I show y'all real quick our plans for the summer? So what we're getting ready to start doing, can I just give you just a quick little
Yes, please.
2 minutes, promise. Let me just flip through these slides real quick. So gosh, I think like this is my 4th year, 2.5, 3 years ago, I wrote a grant, and it's going through the slides. It's not supposed to be doing that. Hold on. I wrote a grant for a new building. It's a $6 million grant. We got $3 million from the state, $3 million that's in-house that we have to match. So we have that, and we're planning on doing it. We're going to be doing an ag mechanics expansion that's going to happen this summer. So our welding shop, that's currently the auto shop, the welding shop, and our tech office is going to be transformed into a 6,200 square foot metal shop with all of the warehouse, the IT space, and the metal shop. Really super excited about that. Our ag science classroom, so right where the tennis court is, and I'll show you a picture in just a minute, but where the tennis court is by the cafeteria, the 3 classroom building will sit there, and it's going to be a science lab, a science classroom, and a horticulture classroom. And then this past summer, I know you noticed, we added portables in the back, and we're going to be adding some more on the front tennis court nearest to the snack bar this summer, where we'll have to house more programs and more students because we're just outgrowing our space. So this is a picture of the backside. Can y'all see my pointer?
No.
Yes or no?
No.
Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the backside. So the cafeteria is like right here. And then this is the front of the school here. So these are 3 science classrooms, and this is going to be like a, oh gosh, I'm losing the word. What's the word?
Outside auditorium.
Yeah, but there's a fancy word. What is it? Anyway, it's a fancy word for
Amphitheater.
Amphitheater. There we go. The fancy word. So this is going to be a amphitheater for clubs to meet, FFA. And this is the front of it. And these lovely little rockets right here, they actually have to be there because of the one's a chemistry and one's a bio lab. And getting the fumes out of the building. So the building from the parking lot, it looks very similar to our current facade at the school. And this just kind of gives you a little overview of where everything is. This right here, where it says new CTE building, that's going to be where the actual classrooms are built. And then this back part where it says the date is going to be an outdoor classroom space. There's pocket doors in the back, or they call them nano doors, that they open up to the outside for outside classroom space. And this tennis court here is going to be redone as soon as it stops raining. And then we are getting a quote to add 2 more tennis courts right here in this space. This is going to be where the portables are going to go. This work will get done this summer. And if you look over here, this has not been completely planned out yet, but we anticipate this blue spot being a cafetorium, multi-purpose room, new cafeteria. Our current cafeteria is right here. And like Ms. Edwards was saying, with the lunches, we have outgrown our current cafeteria. And if anybody, so many of you went to school in Wheatland or are very familiar, have had kids already go through, you know that our cafeteria is very small, and we have about close to 900 kids on campus every day. And so it's really hard to get them all through. This piece over here will probably happen sooner than later. Hopefully within the next year, we're looking at making this part a parking lot. Because again, if you ever come on campus, you know that we don't have the space. This is just a fun fact. Our current enrollment right now is around, this is a little high from when they did this. They said it was 1,082 in 21-22. We're actually sitting at about 1,060. Next year, we're anticipating I think that's like, I can't see it, but I think it's like 1,115. Our cohorts are growing, especially the cohort growth from Plymouth Lake. And then somewhere between 1,300 and 1,400 students by the time that 26, 27 rolls around. So we're, again, we're running out of room. So we got to figure out what we're going to do. So the board and I have been working with facility consultants and our architect about what it's going to look like. And our long-term goal is obviously to build a new high school in Plymouth Lake. The district already owns 50 acres that close to right across from the fire department. So we have the property that we're able to put a new high school on. So that's our long-term goal. And this is River Oaks here. This is an old park picture. This was something that was done a long time ago, looking at potential joint use. We're still going to be working with OPUD and Plymouth Lake Elementary School District to build out this facility and try to utilize as much joint use opportunities as we can for that high school. And this is kind of the timeline. So it's really, I know Gary Bradford was on here earlier. We've been having these conversations for quite some time, since the summer, about what we're going to have to do and how we're going to house, how we're going to bring Wheatland back down to a manageable size, somewhere between 700 and 800 students, which it was a couple of years ago, and then being able to split and move the students from Plymouth Lake into the new high school. And so it's looking, if all the stars align, there's a lot of work that we've got to do, but it's looking that potentially in 2027, we would have a high school built in Plymouth Lake. So any questions? Thank you for letting me share my. So Cynthia, no, we're not losing tennis courts. We're building a new, we're losing one. We're building a new one, and then we're getting a quote to put one behind where EPD is. I guess I could pull it back up. Maybe. So right here. So this is going to be a brand new court here. And right here.
Your pointer's not there.
Oh. Can you see this?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is going to be a new tennis court. Is that working?
Yeah.
Brand new. And then right here is where we're going to come in and put 3 more. This one will go away, which this one isn't. Well, they're all in really bad shape, but we really only need 6 courts. And there's a lot of, we're experiencing, like I said, we're experiencing a lot of growth. We have a lot of opportunity to expand this campus a little bit more. And we also just are going to acquire some property over behind the football field, going to where Bishop's was farming the land over closer to the cemetery. So we've even had conversations about what could we do with some of that. Do we want to make it into parking? Do we want to make some type of joint use with the city, tennis courts, move things like that over there? So there's a lot of planning, but our immediate need is got to figure out where we're going to house the kids that are going to grow as our district grows and community grows, and how we're going to house them and build a new high school in Plymouth Lake. Okay, possible pool. So the pool is a joint use project between us, Wheatland School District, and the city. And nothing's done. They've applied for a grant. And it would potentially be between Wheatland Elementary School and Bear River. There's a field there where it would go. But yeah, we do need a pool for the swim team. So it'd be a community pool. It wouldn't just, it would be something for the city. It wouldn't be for any of the schools. Maybe we would use it, but it wouldn't be, the school's not, the school doesn't need to get in business of owning swimming pools. It's a lot. You ask any superintendent or any CBO and they're going to say, stay away from it. They're very, very, very expensive to manage. So we'll let the city take that one on. What about some real nice soccer fields? So we are playing on the football field now, but now the football field's too wet. So it's a constant taking care of things. So football this year made it to the playoffs, actually 2 games. So they stayed on the football field a little bit longer this year. So the soccer wasn't able to get on. But Cynthia, all those things are on our list, on our facility planning list. Anything else? I miss y'all in person. I'm ready to get back to some normalcy. It's nice to have Zoom meetings, but it's much better. It's nice to have meetings like this because more people can join us, but it's still nice to be, to be together in person. Mr. O'Neill, turf is, if you ask Mr. Lopez, that is his main goal as a board member right now, is to make sure that we have a turf field, but they cost about $1 million and 1.7 million. So we'd have to figure out how we're going to pay for that turf field. So Mr. O'Neill, why don't you look for some grants for me? I've been looking and I can't find anything. George, can you do that? Can I get a thumbs up, George? He might not have given me a thumbs up yet, but I'm gonna hold him. There we go. All right, well, thank y'all. I'm gonna publish this video. The survey, let me put the survey one more time in the chat before we shut down. And I fixed it. Was anybody able to do it? And it worked?
Yeah, I found it and I did it and I put my list in there for you.
Okay, sweet. Thank you. Okay. There it is.
Is this only going to be shared on this platform or are you going to share it on or email it out to other parents?
Yeah, I'll email it. We'll send it out in Communicator once we download it. I'm not going to do any editing, so they're just going to get it just like this. They're going to get the real deal. Thank y'all. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Bye. If you have any questions or you want to email later, just please, we're easy to find. So just shoot us an email if you come up with something later. Okay. Thank you. Have a great night. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Thank you.